Reverend Heather Dawn Clark.
Good morning. I'd like to explain the title first. So the title, the whole theme that the title is built around is we believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God. This is pure science of mind. This is the basic principle, so let me say it again. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God. And so it takes us to this quote, which comes from page 41 of the textbook. And he says, and Ernest Holmes says this: "It is a beautiful and true thought to realize that every person stands in the shadow of a mighty mind, a pure intelligence, and a divine givingness. The farmer has seen the heavenly host in the fields. The child has frolicked with it at play. The mother has clasped it to her breast, and the fond lover has seen it in the eyes of their beloved. We look too far away for reality," and there's a capital R on the word reality, meaning the presence of God. We look too far away for it because it's right where we are. It cannot, there isn't a spot where God is not. There's not one thing we can look at or contemplate where the divine presence is absent. It's present in everything. It's present in you. It's present in me. And its nature is love. It is the law of love. And it's right now, right here in this very room. Feel it for a moment. We certainly heard it in the joyful sounds of the choir. So now feel it and look for it wherever you are in the next couple of weeks. Yesterday we attended, about 8 of us from our center attended the memorial service for Reverend Michael. About 9 of us attended the memorial service for Reverend Michael DeFebo. And it was amazing. It was a wonderful, very long service. It was at noon. It finished around 2:30. It was maybe 2:15. It was long. There were no breaks. And it was, for me, very moving. It was very honoring of Reverend Michael and of what his vision was, what he stood for, and was filled with so much love. There were people there represented from his community, the Antelope Valley community, of course, from Westlake Center, because that's where he had come from before here. And all 4, well, his 3 teachers and Dr. Moira Fox were all there to celebrate him. So me, Dr. Sue Rubin, and Dr. Maureen Hoyt were all there. And it was so loving. It was so wonderful. And there were so many things that I noticed that were right on point of this. Michael always wanted to fill that sanctuary. They have a beautiful church building with pews, and it's long and kind of the traditional church shape, long and narrow, and with about 250, room for 250 was full. It was full. And the parking lot was just about full when we got there. And what a joy that is. What a joy that is for any minister, any congregant, any board member. People know who we are. People are coming here. People know who they are because they're coming here. And so in this holiday season, that's my main message to all of us, to remember who you are and to let the traditional carols, the traditional celebrations invite you to go deeper, to have a greater experience of the divine. But since I started with going to someone's memorial service, I need to tell one of Bruce's favorite stories. And it is the story of the person who said, you know, when I die, I want to go like my grandpa in his sleep. not kicking and screaming and crying in pain like the passengers in the car he was driving. Okay, tomorrow would have been my mom's 97th birthday. And so I know that she's been really on our minds. She's taking her 3 daughters and her niece to Cancun for Christmas. So I'll be leaving Christmas morning, then going to Cozumel. It's going to be quite a different Christmas from the cold ones I've experienced for the last 6 or 8 years, that every Christmas day I'd fly up to Canada and be there. But so I just wanted to let you know, of course, we've got Christmas Eve coming up, and I certainly hope you have that on your calendar, because it's always such a wonderful experience. It's always such a wonderful experience. So, Dr. Joseph Murphy, who wrote the book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, and that book is a wonderful book. It's so easy to read, and it's filled with examples of people using principle. He calls it subjective mind or subconscious mind, but it's the same principle because there's only one law. And no matter what you call it, it's always being used. When you think something, feel something, you're planting a seed in that divine mind or subconscious mind. And he tells, one of the many stories he tells is the story of a man, a salesman, who came to him because he was really puzzled. He said, I have tremendously good sales, and my boss doesn't like me. He won't promote me, and I'm getting fed up with it. I just don't like it. And Dr. Murphy said, well, and he had the person come in, said, well, it's quite right. You're really doing well. So it must be in you and not in your boss, the reason you haven't been promoted. It must be in you. You're keeping your good away from you. So he asked him how he could possibly do that. And he said, well, tell me about why you think your boss doesn't like you. He said, well, he criticizes me. He won't take my suggestions. He said, and what about you? He said, well, I have to steel myself to go into work, all the way into work. In my mind, I'm knowing how I'm going to be criticized. And so listen to this. So I'm criticizing him and complaining about him before I've even seen him for the day. Whoa, that tells you a whole lot. So he said, okay, what you're going to do from now on, you're going to think of all the wonderful things that your boss represents. And at least 5 times a day, you're going to affirm that I have the best boss, and he is so easy to work with, and he sees who I am. And what's more, before you go to sleep at night, you're going to imagine him promoting you. Hear the words he says. Hear it and see it in your imagination. Him congratulating you, shaking your hand, telling you how happy he is that you work for him. Well, the fellow, the salesman, did this for a number of months. Because see, when you've got a habit, it's not going to be changed overnight, but he was willing to work at it. So for a number of months, he did that. And then it was even better than he had been imagining. He was promoted to a regional sales manager's position out of the area with 100 salesmen under him. That's the power of the law of mind. It works if we work it. It works if we work it. So if we remember that we're always planting seed in this fertile soil of mind, then we know that there is never a wasted thought. There is never a wasted seed. If it's for our good, Holmes tells us that we can have anything as long as it doesn't harm someone else or ourselves. We can be and do what it is that we're called to have, be, and do. But we may need to change our minds about how we're perceiving the world. The God of love cannot hear the prayer of the one who fails to love, my favorite quote, cannot hear the prayer, which means your prayers, the seed you plant when you are criticizing someone else or blaming someone else, those are really seeds that don't have any vitality anymore. And it's not because the law doesn't work. It's because you're interfering with it by your complaining. By your complaining. Many years ago, I heard this wonderful story. It was actually told by Dr. Jackie Balzano at a Silomar that I attended. And of course, she was the minister who preceded me in this center. And so I'd like to tell it to you this morning because I think this is all about God. And the story goes that King Arthur was out hunting and he was in a part of the mystical forest where he shouldn't have been. And of course, he was King Arthur, so he went anywhere he wanted. And so he was out hunting and he shot a deer and it would belong to a wizard. Wizard was very angry. And he said, I don't care if you're king. I don't care if you're king. Your life is mine. That was my heart. That was my deer. That was mine. And so you owe me your life. So I'll tell you what, I'll give you 1 year to find the answer to this question. And if you find it, I'll give you your life. But if you do not find it, you give me your life. And so he asked, well, what's the question? And the question is simply, what do women want? What do women want? He said, are you sure that's what do women want? That should be pretty easy to find out. He went all over, he had his knights go all over the land and they were all searching for this answer. What do women really want? What is the truth of what do women want? And they got all sorts of answers. They got answers about riches and they got answers about beauty and they got all sorts of answers. And both Arthur and his knights, and particularly his nephew Gawain, knew that they hadn't come to the right answer yet. And so Gawain was out in the forest, close to that magical forest, and he saw a wretched woman, a witch, and she looked like a witch. She was toothless. She had stringy hair, hunched, and old and awful looking. And she said, I know the answer to the question that my brother has asked you. Well, that gave him a clue first off, so he said, well, what is the answer? And she said, what women really want is sovereignty, to have control of their own life. Sovereignty, to have control. When Gawain heard that, he knew that it was true. She said, not so fast, young man. Now you must fulfill the rest of the magic spell. You must marry me and make me your bride. Well, he was turned off, but he knew he did. Remember, she was really hideous looking. And she smelled as well. And she was groveling. This was really the worst possible thing. But he said, well, if I don't? She said, well, then I must take your king's life. And being a knight, he freely said, then I will do what a knight would do. I will do the right thing. Not because I'm obligated, but because I'm choosing. These are all clues. So he marries this woman, and all of the people in the court are there, and they're all dressed in their finery, and of course she's in her rags, Dame Ragnell, and she looks hideous, but he marries her anyway, and everyone said, "Oh, poor Gawain, he's saddled with this woman now for the rest of his life." But he decides that he's going to do his best to be an honorable knight. So he goes into the wedding chamber, and there's this beautiful woman, absolutely gorgeous. Her hair is wonderful. Her skin is silky. She is young and absolutely luscious and desirable. And she says to him, "It's me, Dame Ragnell." Said, "Oh, wow, I'm so glad I said yes." And she said, "Yes. And now you must make a choice. You can either have me this way at night, where I will come to your bed and I will be what you see, beautiful, lovely, desirable, and desiring you. Or you can have me beautiful, desirable, and loving in the daytime, so the rest of the court can see my beauty and have my other form at night. You choose. It's your choice." Well, Gawain was a very clever knight because he remembered, what do women really want? And he said to her, what women really want is sovereignty over their own life. So, my darling, the choice is yours. And she said, "You have freed me from the spell completely because you let it be my choice. You saw how important my free will was." And so this is every one of us, men and women. We get to have the life we want. We get to perceive it correctly. We get to see beauty and joy, talent everywhere or nowhere. It's really up to us. It's really up to each one of us to see ourselves first and foremost, not as that beautiful woman, but as the wizard, as the one casting the spell, because that's the truth of us. We're either casting a spell for our greatness, for our beauty, for our glory, for our success and prosperity, or we're casting a spell for our unhappiness, our lack of freedom. It's up to you. It's up to me. Yesterday, when we were going to Michael's memorial, we were there in such great time. Reverend Judy was driving. And so, not because she was speeding, but she's clear, and we were all clear. And we got there in 2 hours. So that was wonderful. And so we had an hour that we could, at least 45 minutes, that we could stop and have something to eat. We were going to be hungry because the thing started at noon. And I said, "I know who the first 3 speakers are," which I was one of them. So I said, "I know who the first 3 speakers are, so we better eat if we can." So, well, let's set an intention that we'll be able to get in and out, get served and eat, or at least get our food and get there on time. We saw a place, and so we just went around the neighborhood and spotted a place called Jack's Cafe. And we thought, wow, that sounds pretty good. Jack's Cafe probably has sandwiches and soups and things that we can get fast. We walked in and it was buzzing. It was a local favorite. It was just buzzing with people, none that we knew, but people were in there, and it was only open from 7 a.m. till 2. And we walked in and said to the hostess, "We're really in a hurry. We're going to a service at noon. Do you think you can serve us by, in a timely way so that we can be out of here by quarter till?" She said, "I'll do my best." That service was the best I've ever seen. They were there before I even got my coat off, they were there with the menus, and then the server was there to take our orders, and it was served almost immediately. It was almost unbelievable. But it was an intention, and that's how the law works. We collectively had an intention and it was delicious food. Exactly, served perfectly at the right time. That's how life happens when you're living in alignment with truth and are willing to see God everywhere, no exceptions. It's a great week to practice. It's a great week to practice. Some of you will be seeing family and friends, and sometimes it's harder to practice with family and friends because we have history that, and they may see us as the old self. But be determined to bring your new self to every moment in the next 2 weeks so that we can begin the new year with that perfect intention to be one with Source. Don't look too far away for reality. It's right where you are, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to pray now, and I'm going to pray for all of us. So in this holy moment of now, in this holy moment of now, I listen to Diane set the consciousness.
All good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, holy. All one, holy, holy. All one, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is one, holy, holy.
And so in this holy moment of now, knowing all good, I begin by knowing that there's God and absolutely nothing else. There's either God as potential or God as form, God as activity, God, good, everywhere, that divine presence that is love, moving throughout all of creation as what it is. So I speak this word for each one of us. And this is what I know. I know that that presence goes before us and makes the way clear, the bumpy places smooth, goes before us and announces our presence as love wherever we are. We're seen as the kings that have come to honor the babe. Wherever we are, we let our light shine. And we do so with such intention and such joy, such well-being. What I know is that we listen to that Christmas story in a different way than ever before. We listen to the songs, the carols, with a heart made glad and open for new ideas. What I know is that each one of us is healthy, vital, strong, filled with the energy of the divine. The life of God is each one's life right now. And furthermore, I know that the love of God is each one's experience, connecting with friends, with family of choice or family of origin, connecting with that spirit within that is God within, loving the self first and foremost so that there's plenty of love to go around. And what I know is that this is a time of generosity and giving and abundance because this is the nature of each one of us. And so we open our hearts to receive and to give, to be one in the flow of the abundance of life. And furthermore, I know that this is a time of enhanced creativity, a flow of new ideas, regardless of past experiences, of age or circumstance. Newness makes itself known through each one of us. I know that it's a holy time and a wholesome time, and that it is a season of peace on earth, goodwill toward all men and women, to all people. And so, knowing that that is so, and knowing it is my intention for all of us, for each one of us, any person who accepts that as being so, I know for each one that this is so. And I bring great gratitude to this moment. Great gratitude for God's presence, for God's love, for the healing power of God's grace. And with my heart filled with gratitude, I simply place it in law. It is complete. And please help me anchor it by saying with me, and so it is. So it is.
Thank you, Reverend Heather.